Hi everyone, this is Sasha Townsend. This is a video, first video in a series of many, I hope, about transforming math education. I just want to share my vision with you for how we can transform math education, just sort of from the inside out. Here's the idea. In March 2020, the pandemic sent us all home. And while the pandemic is a horrible thing and thousands of people have died, and we're all dealing with the consequences of that, not just the deaths, but the economic consequences, the social consequences, the people that are in home environments that are being forced to stay at home where those homes aren't necessarily safe. All of that has happened and we've all been coping with it in the best way possible. Some of us have been more fortunate than others, but we've certainly all had to deal with the stress in one form or another, of this pandemic. So, but that being said, I still think that this pandemic has offered us an opportunity. This is a great opportunity to transform and reimagine math education, particularly online remote learning education. And I think the time is now to invest in building the classroom of the future. Now, I know that all the teachers and faculty are doing the very best that they can. I mean, I know that when this happened, when the pandemic sent us home, one of the first things that I did was I went to Quality Matters and I looked at the Quality Matters rubric and I compared everything that I was doing to the best practices in online education. And I made sure that I was checking off all of those boxes. I made sure that everything was linear. I made sure that every unit had learning outcomes. Every lesson within every unit had learning outcomes. I did all of those things. I had videos paired with certain types of activities. So, I followed best practices. But even when we follow the very best practices in online education, our students are staring at screens by themselves for hours at a time. Now, there are some students they're very happy with online learning and they were very comfortable with this shift, but many of our students are accustomed to that face-to-face contact, that social contact, and they really learn best when they have that social contact. So, or contact and context. So what I'm saying is, even when teachers are doing their very best work and students are working as hard as possible and the parents are getting involved, parents are even quitting their jobs to stay home and teach their kids, we keep even when all of us are working as hard as we can, education as it is now, especially in the remote learning environment, is not serving our students as well as it could. And it's not because the technology isn't available. We know that we can reach out to each other via technology. The fact that I'm able to make this video for you and you're able to watch it right now says something about what technology can do. But there are pieces that are missing in online education. And I'd like to talk to you more about my vision for transforming online education in these videos. So this is my first video. Here's an outline of what I envision for the classroom of the future. First, big picture, the first thing that I think of when I think of the classroom of the future is the classrooms that we see in science fiction. I think of Tony Stark playing with his technology, just using his hand to move something to the side and see something that is very much like what we see with augmented virtual reality and the technology that is available for that. Or I think of Yoda teaching a bunch of younglings how to use their lightsabers. And I think about how we're using technology like augmented virtual reality and virtual reality right now. I've used the apps, and when I click on those apps and I try to use them, it's like I'm looking at an augmented virtual reality of a textbook, which really isn't that much better than a textbook. But what if we were using augmented virtual reality and those types of immersive learning experiences differently? What if our students were able to experience the math in sort of a hands-on way, not in the sense of being able to touch a surface, that's not what I'm talking about, but maybe through an experience like a roller coaster ride, a simulated roller coaster ride, like the types of rides that you would ride at Universal Studios. I know they have one for The Simpsons. They used to have one for Back to the Future. I think the Back to the Future ride became the Simpsons ride. Imagine students are walking along surfaces, and as they are doing calculations of the gradient and calculating the magnitude of the gradient, they're able to confirm visually through some augmented learning environment or immersive learning environment what those actually mean. I know, of course, I'm thinking of the holodeck from Star Trek as well. So I think that that is the classroom of the future. That is the wave of the future. But there are some other elements that are missing. So let's talk about just 5 elements that are missing, and then I'll close this video. So first of all, the classroom of the future should be immersive. I love abstraction. And I love going to higher and higher levels of abstraction and thinking about concepts in an abstract way. But creating analogies that are more concrete is very helpful to students. Using analogies to reach people where they are, to connect to something that they already know, makes a huge difference. And if we can create a physical experience where the student is, traveling along a curve or walking along a surface or manipulating some volume that they're trying to optimize, for example, if we can create that for them in an immersive environment that everyone can have in their own home. So even when we're social distancing, I think um, that would help students learn math. They would grow by leaps and bounds if they could just um, see it and touch it and feel it. And they didn't just have to imagine it. They're going to have to imagine some of it, but if they didn't just have to imagine it, but they could also experience it in a very concrete way, then the abstraction isn't that difficult because they understand on some level how this works. And then because they understand it on some level, it's very easy to extend that idea by analogy. And so that's the first thing. Another thing that the classroom of the future should be is it should be fun. Like you should want to be there. I have talked to a friend about this. One of the things that I always take from my learning in psychology, I have a psychology degree as well as a math degree, is that we are prone to just the same types of conditioning that Pavlov's dogs are prone to. We thrive on these devices because of the dopamine hit that is associated with getting a like, because of the dopamine hit that is associated with the types of images and videos and content that we see. That's why our social media works the way it does. They're getting us to stay online, clicking more and more, so that and then they're making money on it. But that's beside the point. The point is that it's addictive, and it's designed that way. It's designed with us in mind. What if we created math education or science education that felt addictive, that felt like a game, that as you're playing this game and learning, you are getting a dopamine hit and another dopamine hit and another dopamine hit. I've had some friends who were really into gaming. I'm not a gamer, but I've had many friends, male friends, who were addicted to online gaming. So they'd play something like World of Warcraft and they'd stay up until 4 a.m. on the weekends, even sometimes during the week, in order to play this because it got so many of their social and intellectual the needs met. I'm sorry, I cut myself off, but they have social needs that are being met by this, intellectual needs that are being met by this. They're craving problems that can be solved in a certain way. They're craving leadership opportunities. They're craving just the opportunity to do this in a certain context. And what's really sad, or what has always been really sad to me about that, is that they're devoting all of that time and energy to learning and achieving all of these things in an environment that doesn't really exist outside of the world of that game. But what if they were doing the same thing with something that was teaching them multivariable calculus, or something that was teaching them differential equations, or something that was, teaching our kids, just elementary algebra? When I say elementary algebra, I mean in the sense of symbolic manipulation as it's taught in 7th and 8th grade here in the US. So learning should be immersive. So we should make it immersive so that it feels concrete, and then we can take that concrete experience and we can abstract it, we can extend it to multiple dimensions and so on. But when you take something concrete and you create an analogy and you create a physical experience for your brain and your entire nervous system, and you say, this is what we're talking about with that math, so that they really get it at an intuitive level. I think that's going to make a big difference. Again, second, math education should be fun. Third, consistent with that, it should be relatively addictive in the sense that students are getting dopamine hits from participating in this classroom, where they just want to stay on, they want to learn more. Fourth, the type of learning environment needs to attend to our social and emotional needs. We're social creatures. We need other people. Staring at a screen all day, even with the best designed course, doesn't meet our social and emotional needs. Fifth, we need to address the academic deficiencies of diverse learners. I know when I teach pre-calculus, I will sometimes have somebody in class that cannot multiply. They don't know that a negative times a negative is a positive. At the same time, I have another student in class who probably should have been in Calculus 1, but decided not to test out of pre-calculus. And so I've got one student who's extraordinarily bored, one student who's extraordinarily lost, and I'm having to teach to the middle. We're having to teach to everyone in between. And in the classroom environment, that's really difficult because even as you teach to the middle, you're losing people on the high end that are bored. You're losing people on the low end that can't keep up with what you're doing in the middle. If we could create something in online education that was tailored to the diverse needs of those learners, that was responding to their strengths and weaknesses with AI, giving them the types of feedback that a human grader would give them, but automatically with the same response time as the yes, you have a right answer, no, you have a wrong answer response time that you get in something like My Math Lab or WebAssign. Like that would, that would help tremendously as far as equity is concerned. We would be meeting our students where we are, designing technological solutions that address our students' needs. And of course, in order to do all of that, everyone needs to have access to reliable internet access, basically. So the classroom of the future is immersive, it's fun, it's addictive, it attends to our social and emotional needs. It addresses the needs of diverse learners. It considers equity. That means we're putting our distance learning in a social context, and we really need to think about how to get every single person access to reliable internet. And lastly, and this is one of the things that has driven my teaching methods for years, is that we need to tie grades. Those are our assessments, those things that the students are so concerned about when they take our math classes, to measures of actual learning. So a grade shouldn't just be, oh, you know enough to pass. Oh, you know enough to be at the top of the class, or you don't know enough yet, you're failing this class. It shouldn't just be providing a label on them where they feel like I'm good at this or I'm bad at this, because everybody can be good at math. Everybody can be great at math. But they need to see that grade, or we need to associate that grade with a temporary snapshot of how much that student knows right now, and realize that everyone can improve, and we need to put systems in place that incentivize studying, that make it fun to study, that make it satisfying to watch that grade go up. I know in my standards-based grading classes, one of the reasons why it works so well is that students are watching their grades just improve overnight, it seems. I remember one student, she had a D on a particular course standard, and she went from a D to an A. So she went from a grade of a 1 to a grade of a 4 through studying. And I remember our conversation. She said, really, all I had to do was study and learn, and now I can get the higher grade? And that was because of the nature of the grading system, and I'll have to talk about that in other videos. But I said, yes, really, all you have to do is study and learn. And when you study and learn, your grade goes up. And when that happens once, then they study and learn something else, and their next grade goes up, and then their next grade goes up, and their next grade goes up. And so they're watching themselves improve. Meanwhile, they're constantly self-assessing. They're learning how to learn, and they're learning math, and they're loving it. And they're gaining a lot of confidence as well as mathematical skill through the standards-based grading learning experience. So that's what I imagine for the classroom of the future. It's immersive, it's fun, it's relatively addictive. It caters to our social and emotional needs. So there's student-to-student contact, there's student-to-faculty contact. It meets the needs of diverse learners. It considers the social context. It considers the inequities that are present in our culture right now. And it says, you know, it's really not fair that everyone does not have access to this technology. And if we are truly going to provide excellent opportunity, equal opportunity for all, that means everyone should have access to an excellent, affordable, free public education. And that could happen if we could design remote learning experiences that are even better than what we do face-to-face. And I think that we have the technology available to design those remote learning experiences that are just going to take our learning and our society to the next level, but we have to build it. And I always think of the field of dreams. If we build it, they will come. If we create these learning experiences for students, they will come. They will seek out those experiences because everyone wants to grow and everyone wants to feel smart. Everyone wants to get to higher levels in Maslow's hierarchy. After their needs for food and shelter are met, you know, they want to go higher. Everyone wants to go higher. And they want to do it in such a way that they feel supported, that they feel seen, that they feel cared for, that they don't feel stupid, or if they do momentarily feel stupid, someone says, you know what, it's okay, I felt like that too. That the classroom of the future attends to that whole student and all of their social and emotional and academic needs, and takes advantage of all of the resources and technology we have to deliver on that promise of an excellent, affordable public education for all. Honestly, I believe in my heart that this is one of the greatest civil rights issues of our time. No student should have to go to a failing public school. And that's not about school choice or politics. I don't want to get into that. But the fact that our current system leaves students in failing public schools is wrong. That means not everybody has the same opportunity. And if you don't have the same opportunity in K through 12, you're going to be behind when you get to the college level. And if you don't have the same opportunity at the college level, you're going to be behind when you get to your career. Now, all of us are dealt different hands. I mean, we're all born with different strengths and weaknesses. Everyone has elements of privilege, and everyone has things that they struggle with. I know we have a lot of mental health issues in my family. And while I have privilege in some respects, there are other respects where I'm really at a disadvantage. And it's because of a genetic predisposition to seeing things a certain way. So there is privilege and lack of privilege in all of us. And my thought on that is, given the hand that everyone is dealt, given the unfair playing field that we all come out of the womb with, how do we provide for that equitable, affordable, excellent education for all if it doesn't start in kindergarten? Um, I think the way we do that is we create the classroom of the future. And when we create the classroom of the future, that involves everyone having internet access and everyone having um, the opportunity to get an excellent education. Now, my focus is not on K through 12. My focus is on undergraduate math education. Like, I love teaching uh, undergraduates calculus, and I love teaching differential equations, and I would love to teach 3000 and 4000 level math as well. As much as I love children, I would never hope to go teach kindergarten. Like, that's not the place where I see myself. But I do see that K through 12 is where the inequity begins. And if we could provide an excellent public education for all, that would lay the foundation for the future. That's it for my first video. My name again is Sasha Townsend. I hope to converse more with you about transforming math education. I'm going to focus where I'm at. I'm going to focus on my students for right now and look for opportunities to create these immersive, fun, addictive, socially and emotionally engaging courses that meet the needs of diverse learners, and not just assign grades at the end of the semester, but use grades to help us, to help the students learn, to help them learn more and more and more through an incentive structure. So that's it for now. I'll see you next time, and we'll talk more about, or I'll share more about my ideas for transforming math education.